Okay, I moved the washers back to where they're supposed to be. You should now, depending on the thickness of your pawls and the tolerances that were held on the spacer, you may not need 2 washers here. You may need 3, or you may need 1. It just depends. But that's why we give you a bunch of washers, and you may need more, which we have more, so you can adjust the positions of things. Okay, so now I've got the nut is tight, actually almost tight. And if you hold the pawl, this is what you want to hear when you flip the pawl adjuster back and forth. Okay, nice click. All right. You need the spacers in there because you can't have a bunch of play, and you can't have the pawl adjuster wobbling all over the place because it will bind on the spacer. Okay, step 8 says install cable set screw in cable drum and check thread depth. This is where you need a nice countersink on your tapped hole. Take your set screw, start it in. Now if it starts a little tight, there may be a little bit of a burr there. You may need to run the tap back in there, or just get the screw started with the wrench, okay, the 1/8 inch Allen wrench. And what you want to do is you want to look in the blind number 2 cable hole. When you screw the set screw all the way down till it bottoms out, it should be about halfway into that cross hole. I don't know if you can see that, but that's so that when you put the cable in the cable hole, the set screw comes in and traps the cable in there so it doesn't come back out. Okay, so now I'm going to just back it up a little bit so it's out of the hole. Okay. Then step number 8 says, or sorry, step number 9, assemble cable drum and drum spacer in handle. Okay. So your cable drum should slip freely right in between the 2 halves of the handle as long as you've made your handle correctly and you've got the gap properly set. And then your spacer should slide freely in there so that now you've got nice snappy action. Okay, if you don't have good spring action, good ratcheting action, your spring may need to be bent a little bit more. It should have about a 70-degree bend. We may need to bend it a little bit more, but also if the pawl adjuster is wobbling back and forth, it will bind on the spacer and you won't get this nice crisp click. So you need that, and you need good crisp clicking of the pawl in the teeth. Okay. Okay, let's see, number 10. Loosely attach fixed hook to the frame members. Okay, actually should say fixed hook support. All right, so here's our frames. Now these nuts that go on your fixed hook support are called nylock nuts. There's a little nylon, hard nylon washer attached to one side of the nut. That's so that once you screw the nut on, when you get it all the way on, the threads go into that nylon ring and it becomes hard to turn and locks it in place so it won't fall off. So don't screw it into that, just put it on somewhat loose, okay, like that. Okay. Number 11 says assemble handle, cable drum, and spool guard in frame with 1 brass washer on the outside of each side of the handle. Okay, here's a really important little trick that will make things much easier for you. If you just take the brass washer and you set it on the outside of the spacer, it's going to fall right off. And it's going to probably, when you are putting your hoist winch together, here's what will likely happen. You've got your bolt, you have your frame out here and the bolt goes through, okay, and you're working on this thing, and what will happen is the spacer will fall off of the side of the handles and get trapped between your drum spacer and the frames, and it'll bind everything up. That has to stay so that the drum spacer is going through the washer. So what you can do is we'll have tubes of grease with a little wire in it. Take the wire and put a little bit of grease on the sides of your handle next to the spacer, and it'll act like glue, weak glue, but it works great. Okay, you stick the spacer in that grease, now it won't fall off. Okay, so we'll do that on both sides. Running out of grease in this one. And that'll hold those spacers in place while you're putting this thing together so they don't fall off. Like that.